Welcome to Arizona Barrio Stories and Latino USA TV. While I'm thinking about it, have you downloaded our app? Our app is on Androids, on Apples. You will be able to catch previous shows in case you missed them. Before we get started today, we have a message from attorney Francisco Gutierrez.
This segment brought to you by Gutierrez Law Firm.
Hola, mi gente. I'm attorney Francisco Gutierrez and a proud sponsor of Arizona Barrio Stories. I grew up in the Anat Barrio, and I've been practicing law now since 1984. Experience really does matter. If you've been injured by someone, call me. Let's talk.
Welcome back. Thank you for being a part of this platform. Thank you for being one of those loyal followers that give us stories and give us pictures. We love your stories that go with those vintage pictures. We want to introduce you to a special guest today. He comes from a background much like us, but the reason he's here is more informative. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Detective Julio Chavez.
Detective.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a detective too. I can figure out where and when you lost your homework, and we know the dog did not eat it.
No, I just didn't do it, to be honest with you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are your roots? Where did you grow up?
So originally, I'm from Sacramento, California area. It's like a suburb of it. I'm first generation American, so my brother, my sister, and I were born there. But my parents are both from Mexico. So
Now, the area you lived in, would it be considered a barrio?
no, it wouldn't, just because where I grew up, it wasn't segregated. That's how most barrios started to begin with. There were areas where people told, hey, you have to live here. But our area was more mixed. So it really wasn't as populated, as densely populated. It was a barrio would in like Phoenix or San Diego or LA or something like that.
Growing up as a kid, what were the things that kept you out of trouble? I like to say, was it the chancla, or what was it that in your family dynamics that kept you on a good path?
I would say just having a good supportive family. Like you can have a big family, but if they're not supportive and they're not teaching you the right things, it doesn't matter. But for me, we did have a really big family. I have about like 14 aunts and uncles, have like 80 cousins that I know of. And so I just remember we were really tight knit and we do a lot of stuff on the weekends. And so, being around them and just, not being influenced by the gangs played a really big part of, staying out of that kind of trouble. Did I get in trouble as a kid? I mean, who doesn't, right? But
And then the chocolate came on.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I was honestly more scared of my mom than my dad. So
It's the mom.
so it's the mom. Yeah, dad just works, and everything you ask him, ask your mom.
Ask your mom.
Ask your mom. Pregunta a tu mamá. That's it.
Now, growing up, did you have any obstacles that you had to overcome as you grew up?
Poverty. It's obviously the big one. We weren't the poorest, but we definitely weren't rich. I grew up in a small apartment with my brother and my sister, and obviously my parents. My dad worked like 7 days a week. My mom was a teacher, so she worked all the time. But, thinking back on it, we had what we needed. But growing up, it's what I wanted. And so I would always complain. But I think there was a lot of things that money could have helped in certain areas. But, my parents still did what they could. And obviously money does play a big part in how successful you could be, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. It just makes you have to work a little harder. So
Growing up, did you realize at that time, and part of the reason we have you on our show today is who you are, who you represent. At that time growing up, did you see yourself becoming a part of the police enforcement? Did you see yourself as a kid doing that?
absolutely not. If we're being quite honest, I didn't like cops at all. Just because I was born in 85. My birthday's tomorrow, actually. And so I'll be 40. So growing up in like the mid 90s, we all know what the environment was with police officers and minorities and stuff like that. Even if you weren't around it, I mean, you saw it on the news and stuff like that. And so just my perspective on police officers in general and law enforcement, it wasn't positive. And so I really had no urge or, wanting to be a police officer or anything like that. And like, I'm not even a little bit, not at all. So I was just as surprised as you when I became a police officer.
Your teachers were probably surprised.
Yeah, I mean, they were, even though I probably was a pain in the butt for a lot of them.
Tell us what you do today. What is your passion, I call it?
So today, what my passion and what I do is they're very, I mean, my passion is what my job is, and right now I'm with the State Gang Task Force. So I'm a Tempe police officer with the city of Tempe. I'm assigned to the gang unit, the Violent Crime Squad in Tempe, but I'm tasked out as a task force officer with DPS. And so the State Gang Task Force, we go around and we work with gangs in the Phoenix area, criminal street gangs.
From a police perspective, how would you define gang? What is considered a gang from your view?
So obviously they're different. Depends on who you ask to be different, right? You ask somebody from the barrio or a gang, they're going to tell you the gang's family, people that I'm close with, and stuff like that. For Arizona, the Arizona Revised Statute, which is essentially the law book, per that book and the definition of it, is a ongoing, either informal or formal association between one or two more people that commit or solicitate or attempt felony crimes, and at least one of them is a gang member. So essentially, a group of people who are committing crimes together, and one of them is a gang member.
Since you came on and to now, maybe it really hasn't been that many years, but if you think back to the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, gangs have evolved.
Correct.
How would you say they have evolved?
Ooh, so growing up in California, some would say that arguably that's where like the Black and Chicano gang started. It came from barrios and stuff like that. Started like social clubs, car clubs, and stuff like that. And then something called crack was introduced, and it turned really violent. And so that's when the gangs kind of started moving towards more monetary reasons, right? It was no longer like that pride of being from a certain area and stuff like that, or protecting your own. And so it's changed from that to like the 80s and 90s, right? And then now today is different because you got a lot of kids who aren't necessarily from certain neighborhoods that are actually claiming certain neighborhoods. And a lot of times kids from different neighborhoods will get together and create a new gang. We call it a hybrid gang. So we'll get a kid, say, from like, Hollywood, and he gets together with a kid, say, from Grant Park, and they come together. They're from two different neighborhoods. They're both gang members from those neighborhoods. Now they create a new gang and name it something different. And so their main purpose is, again, monetary value. They just want to make money together. They're not really necessarily looking to be as part of a neighborhood. They're not looking to protect one another. They're literally just trying to do what they can to make money and get ahead in life, committing crimes.
What are the things parents need to look for, or even teachers? What are some of the things you advise parents and teachers? What do they look for?
Ooh, well, I'm a parent myself. I have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old, and my son probably doesn't like me right now because I'm nosy. My wife's the same way. And as a parent, you have to be nosy. You know what I mean? Like, I think
When you're saying be nosy, what are the things?
so. You have to find out everything they're doing, right? If they have a phone, you have to look at that phone every single day. You have to look at what they're looking at, who are their friends, who they're hanging out with. I think a lot of parents nowadays are either really young or just don't know. Maybe a lot of them didn't have a positive role model on how to be a parent, but you have to know what your kids are doing at all times, and they're not going to like you, and that's fine. But when they get older and they're not in prison, they're not dead, they're going to thank you for it because like you cared, right? You showed them that you cared. And that's what all these kids look for. They want somebody to care for them. They're going to look for attention one way or another, whether it's positive or negative. And if they don't get the positive attention, they're going to do whatever they can to get it. And a lot of that leads to the gang stuff. And so being nosy, meaning like knowing who they're going out with, going through their phone, they got a computer, look at the computer, follow with them at school. When they go to school, talk to the teachers, right? I'm not sure if you had any good relationship with parents, but emailing teachers back and forth.
Parents and I were tight.
That's how it should be, right? And you just have to be informed. You have to know what your kids are doing at all times, because in this day and age, I mean, it leads to not necessarily always joining gangs, but potentially being a victim of a gang crime, right? There's a lot of young kids, even in Casa Grande, out here. A lot of these kids aren't necessarily gang members, but they're hanging out with certain people who are, and they become victims of gun violence. They end up getting shot, they end up getting killed, but they're good kids, right? But parents didn't know where they're at. They didn't know where they were
Also
going.
guilty by association.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is true, and it's just sad because a lot of kids are dying like that. And so, as a parent, your main job should be protecting your kids, right? Not to be their friend, because they need someone with authority and someone that can tell them what's right and what's wrong. And then when they turn 17, 18 years old, then they can be your friends.
Back in the day, we had the DARE program and the GREAT program, and I know they kind of fizzled away. What programs are there being offered now to schools to help kids stay on the right track?
Yeah, so one of them is one that I know of is ICANN. It's in East Valley. It's a program essentially that provides free after school programming for kids. So it's in Mesa and Chandler. They partner with a lot of the schools where they'll give transportation to the kids and essentially keep them busy, because a lot of these kids in these neighborhoods, right, especially the lower income neighborhoods, a lot of them are single parent homes. And so you have single mom who's working like 2 jobs. It's got like 4 kids. And sadly enough, she can't always pick the kids up and she can't always keep them busy, right? Because she has to provide for the family. And so these programs allow kids to stay busy and, have mentors that will kind of help mom. And the best part is, like, it doesn't charge you anything, right? It's free. You just have to reach out to those programs. You have a program that I just found out about called PASS, and it's in the Phoenix area. And essentially they use tennis as a way out for kids. So it teaches them how to play tennis and how to basically be good people. Like, they get mentored by a lot of good adults. And it's a good way too to learn a new sport too, because believe it or not, there's the same amount of scholarships out there for every college, for every sport. And so you get free scholarship just for playing tennis. And and they teach you stuff like that. And so they're out there. You just have to be able to reach out to even local police departments, right? They have resources. They actually have units that deal with the community. For example, Tempe Police Department has Care 7. It's a program where if you are in need of something immediately, they'll give you clothes, they'll give you a voucher for a hotel, they'll give you food if you need it. But then not only are they going to give you that those resources right there, but they're also going to help you with resources in the future, right? So it's not just like, I'm gonna give you a meal now and that's it. I'm gonna give you a meal, but I'm gonna also teach you how to cook. And so they can help themselves afterwards after that. So kind of leading them in the right direction. But every police department has a unit like that, or has a department with that. It's just a matter of people going on the websites or just going there and asking for help, and then they'll definitely be out there and help them out. So,
well, thank you for having a servant's heart. Thank you for giving back to the community. And maybe somebody watching this show will be inspired by your words today.
thank you.
Thank you for visiting us, and do not hesitate to come back and visit us.
No, I won't. Unless you start yelling at me for not doing my homework.
The chancla is here somewhere. This is Irma from Arizona Barrio Stories signing off. And as usual, I hope this message was impactful to you. We will see you soon.